Hey, you guys, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. Today we are getting into the X-Men 97 Marvel Studios, Marvel's Sentinel. On the bottom here, they say Titan Hero series. Now, one thing I want to distinct for the viewers is there's actually two X-Men 97 lines that are out at one time, and a lot of people may not realize this. So, sorry. There is the more adult collector line, and then there's the children's collectors line. So the adult collector line would include, I have one of the figures here, which I'm going to review later on the channel, but this is Magneto. Magneto. Can't believe I butchered the name, but this is Magneto, and this is from the adult collecting line from the Marvel Legends. If you were to type this in a search and type the Marvel Legends X-Men 97, you're going to come up with this. Now, obviously, Marvel Legends is like what I've been reviewing on the channel already, the 6-inch figures that are made for more adult collectors, though kids could play with them too, but they're more made for adult collectors because these go for about $25 or more, depending on the availability. The standard price is about $25, but if they're, very, hard to get, or the availability is very limited, they're going to be about, sometimes they'll go up to $30, whatever the case is. But my point is that it's more made for adult collectors because at that price, you're not going to, buy 20 of them for kids to play with. You can, but now here is, don't mind that sound. That is my tablet. I'm actually turned it on because I'm going to show you guys something on it. Now, this is the line of the first wave. They have a second wave that has Cyclops and Jean Grey and a few others on it. But for those who are in the know, this is wave one, and you can see the figures that come with it. Now, I just say this to show that that is what I don't want to call it the main line, but what the adult line or the collectors who are into Marvel Legends would be buying. Then there is also another line for kids that where the figures are 3 3 3/4 inch size. There's not as many options, but they have that. They have the Blackbird, which only fits one figure, and that line is more geared for kids because it's smaller, less articulation. It's a lot more affordable. They come in a pack where you get like all like maybe 5, 6, or 7 X-Men in one pack. Let me show you that now. And so I couldn't find a showing of all of the lineup together where they would have, I think it's like a 5-pack or 6-pack of the figures. But this right here, for example, is a 3 3/4 inch figure or 4-inch figure, as they say here. This is of the Blackbird. It will only hold one figure. And then you also have, this is what one of the figures individually you can buy. They go for like about $10, 4-inch figures. So the reason why, like I said, I point that out is to just show that this is a different line than your kind of Marvel Legends, your quote unquote Marvel Legends line. This is specifically for the smaller size ones, specifically more for the kids line. I feel because one, they're smaller figures, less detail, and less articulation. Now, before I get into this, I also have a few Marvel retro figures that I reviewed in the past. So these are going to fall in place for, the newer line as far as, just a size comparison to use. These are 3 3/4 inch. So we'll jump into that in a moment. Now, taking a look at some of the things on the box, it's pretty big. So sorry, I can't really fit all of it in frame up close. You have all the images of the new characters from the show. You have the Sentinel on the back, nice art on the box. You have a picture of the Sentinel on this side as well, definitely giving way to that animation. And the figure itself looks very good towards the animation. Now, I am going to, one second. I'm going to unbox this one because unfortunately the shipment came in really bad and damaged. I bought 3 of these. They go generally for, I'm going to put the link in the description for Amazon. Generally, you can find them for about $22. Unfortunately, right after I purchased it, it went up. Amazon tends to do that a lot. This one won't even stand up because the box is that damaged. Amazon tends to do that a lot. So just be careful with that. But they should run you about $22 each. I think it's a really great bargain for you to be able to purchase a few of these if you want army build to have a bunch of them. Now, in addition to that, as I open this up, and hopefully it's an easy open because this is already damaged severely. In addition to that, you guys know on the channel I'm all about scaling, especially when it comes to larger size things to be compared to smaller size things. And so just like I do with the Mattel Jurassic Park line, I did the calculations for the scaling on this. Let me see if this is going to be an easy open or not. So definitely not at all. And pause the video and I will open this packaging up. Okay, so now sorry you guys, my mic was dying on me. I'm praying that it will get me through the video. Now, this Sentinel here stands at 14 inches tall. Now, I think what's good about this, besides for the fact that it's probably the most affordable large scale Sentinel you're going to find, which is why it's a great time to really just stock up on them if you can, because the truth is the only other Sentinels that you've really had was there was a one that was about 8 inches tall for the 3 3/4 inch retro line of Marvel heroes. These are from the retro line that kind of tries to mimic the ones that used to be out in like the 80s, like during the Secret Wars time, if you guys remember those toys. And so there's that one, which is surprisingly, I think, about almost the same price of one of these right now, but that only stands at 8 inches, which is not bad for that size scale, but nonetheless is definitely not to scale what a Sentinel is supposed to be. First, let me get that out of the way. The common size Sentinel, if you were to read its size on, say, the old Marvel cards, was 20 feet tall. Just to give some perspective, Galactus is supposed to be 28 feet tall. Now, 28.8 feet tall. Now, I say that to say there was a line for the 3 3/4 inch line. It was different than this line, though it was the same size, and it was called Marvel Universe figures. Funny, they just give it that name, but very generic. But nonetheless, that line, you can find them on Amazon, was they had articulation, so more articulation than the ones that I just showed you here. And they came out with a Sentinel. I'm not sure the size of the Sentinel because they never had it, but they also came out with a Galactus, which was about 19 inches tall. And a lot of people had bought that because it was one of the first really nice Galactuses you could have. There was a Build-A-Figure before, but one of the very nice Galactuses you could have it was 19 inches tall. So you could kind of blend it with your Marvel Legends characters, which are 6 inches, or the 3 3/4 inch scales, even though it was made for the 3 3/4 inch scale. And at that scale, that made it equal to about 28.8 feet, somewhere in that range for that scaling size, which made him accurate to its scale. But now if you put him next to, figures that were 6 inch, the Marvel Legends, he still was a nice size, but didn't completely fit. So coming back to this is a size that can be usable for both, your 3 3/4 inch or the smaller the smaller kids line of the X-Men 97, which I just showed you, or at 14 inches, you could use it for your main 6 inch characters. Now, be mindful that if you use it for the 6 inch characters, the scaling of this equates to 14 feet because 14 inches, every inch is going to be a foot essentially. But if you do it for the 3 3/4 inch figures, which I'm going to put right next to him now, then he scales at 22.4 feet, which is completely in line with what he should be for, in scale for that line. So this gives you an idea of the ones that he's supposed to be fitted with. And I definitely think that he's very good for that. So as far as a 6-inch Marvel Legends character, I have Jubilee right here. And I'm just going to use her to stand her up. She was just standing a moment ago, so she doesn't want to stand. And that's to give you a sense of scale for a 6-inch character, Marvel Legends scale character, to throw on one of these smaller ones as well. The next Jubilee. And to give you a sense of how big, I'm sorry, I want to make sure everything is in frame very well. I feel like it's a little bit off in terms of being in frame. A little better. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay. So this gives you a sense of how a 6-inch figure will scale up to it. So I think it scales very nicely. That's the thing with some of these larger figures, it scales pretty nicely, especially when you have certain characters like a Sentinel, who you see in various sizes all the time anyway. So sometimes some come in smaller sizes, sometimes they come in bigger sizes. I think the ones that used to be on the X-Men cartoon, the old one and even the current one, are actually larger than 20 feet tall. So that kind of generic marking for a Sentinel is maybe they could have been 20 feet tall. But my point is that sometimes, they'll be all over the place with the size. So it's kind of fitting that, you can say to yourself, this would be the scale size for a Sentinel, for your 6-inch character. So that's why I think it's nice for the army building to have a bunch of these. They do fit well for that. They're not super giant. They're not to the point where you're going to have, like, say, one of the figures, 6-inch figures climbing on their back the way you would, I'll be honest, the camera makes it look in my mind almost like the Sentinel looks even bigger than the 6-inch figure, when I'm looking at it like that. But it's still, like I said, a good nice size. But like I said, you're not going to have it where the figure is like a 6-inch figure is climbing on their back the way you would like Wolverine or Beast climbing on their back like an animated show. Versus they a figure like this big who would be in the size of the Sentinel's head is like just as big as the actual hero himself. That's kind of how it is inside the cartoon. So even though it's not like to that degree, what's nice about this is you can buy at least a good, probably 3 or 4 of these, and then, have displays where they're surrounding figures, and it very much seems imposing on the numbers aspect. So that part I think is really cool. Let's jump into the articulation. So what's nice about this is the articulation is actually not that bad for being, more of a kind of less articulated type of figure. Now its articulation will fall in line with a 3 3/4 inch type of figure, which has less articulation. But what's also cool is that being that Sentinels, you expect them to be more robotic, them not having as much articulation is not as big of a deal. And I actually do appreciate the detail on them. I'll get into articulation in a moment, like I was just going to, but let me just do a quick pass over so you can see. Yeah, it's very basic, but at the same time, the areas that have detail, to me, I think it looks nice, especially the face. And it's basic, but it'll definitely do your need. And for the price, it's worth it. And they definitely feel sturdy. So you have the joints where they can go like that. You have them where they can go forward and back. They can go a full circle. So you've got full articulation in the in the shoulder area. There's some minor swiveling in the wrist, but it doesn't seem to be all that great unless mine is just super stiff. I don't want to push it. So maybe there isn't. I don't know. There's not here. No, I don't think that there is. It looks like here, based on what you could see in there, if you could see it well, you probably can't. It looks like it's fit to the shaping of the arm. So I don't think it's meant to spin. So I don't want to push that. I would advise you probably not to do the same. The legs can move up like that, or they can move forward and back. They don't have a lot of articulation going back because the shape of its bottom prevents it. So, and you can't move these, you can't spin the ankles. So there's not a lot of articulation. But like I said, it's enough for you to get a general pose and enough for you to, just kind of give that scene of Sentinels are coming to attack the X-Men. Now, for the kids who want to play with it, if you're buying it for your kids who have, you bought a bunch of these scale figures, 3 3/4 inch figures, I think it's amazing for that. If you have kids who are watching the X-Men series, you want to buy them the package that has all the X-Men, or you can buy them individually, like I just showed you on Amazon. I'm going to throw a link in the description for some of those figures as well. But in addition to that, if you bought, like, say, the Blackbird and you had this whole little setup, kids would love to play with this for that reason. So that's something to think about as well. But just a pretty much wrap up of this, I think is definitely worth it. I think it's amazing to get for for the price, what you're getting. Like I said, for army building, for the purpose of you really just creating that, because like I was going to mention before, and I lost my train of thought before, they've made a Sentinel for the older line that is no longer made anymore. And though you could find it on Amazon for the Marvel Universe line, which is a 3 3/4 inch line, it is very expensive right now. I think it's something like maybe $200 because it's not made anymore. And in addition to that, there is the they had made for HasLabs, which is also like a one-time crowd-funded thing, the Sentinel, which is, I don't know how big it is, something that's probably like about over 2 feet tall, maybe 2.5 feet tall. And that, if you found it online somewhere, is also going for probably like $400, something like that, because it's not something that's made, in numbers like that. They don't have that many of them. So with that being said, this is really your only option to get a decent sized Sentinel right now. With a lot of them, this is the only means you would have. So for that reason, I would say jump on them now while the line is fresh, if you want to, because like I said, they scale well for these 6-inch figures. Buy as many of them as you can that you want to have, because I don't see them coming out with any other Sentinel that could be used for army building and have a wave of them anytime soon. Anytime. And I don't even think it's in their mentality, because when they do build a Sentinel, it's always because it's such a big figure. What's funny is this. So they build a big figure like that, always hand in hand with Galactus. For the Marvel Universe line, they built the Sentinel and they built the Galactus. For the HasLabs line, they built the Sentinel and they built the Galactus. Both of these figures will be somewhere around the same price. The problem is, in power scale and the way you'd use them in your collection, Sentinels, you want to have probably like 3, 4, 10 of them. Galactus, you're obviously going to have one. And so that difference in dynamic makes it very like off-putting that when they create them of a toy line, they usually go for the same price. So I think this is great, because it's actually good that the Sentinel is less quality for his size, because you don't want a Sentinel costing arm and leg. You don't mind a Galactus costing a lot arm and leg with all the bells and whistles, because he's supposed to be this premium guy he's the best of the best. He's the most powerful in terms of, generally what they'll make a figure of. They don't really make a figure more powerful than a Galactus when it comes to the Marvel line. But as a Sentinel, they're actually just very weak, just robots to be thrashed around. So it's not something where you're going to be like, okay, I want him to be premium cost. I grant you may want premium features, but if it came at the cost of premium features or in being affordable, I feel it's always better for Sentinels to be affordable. Now, if you made a master mold figure, then that's different. You might say, okay, I want him to be with all the bells and whistles. But generally speaking, you want Sentinels to be cheap because you want to have a lot of them. And their only purpose is really just to be, thrashed around in terms of the way that, not in terms of you thrashing the figure around, but in terms of they're made to be defeated easy. That's the purpose of them. So, tell me your thoughts on that. Do you prefer that you have more affordable Sentinels that have less bells and whistles, but you can army build? Or do you like the idea of having really articulated, really fancy bells and whistles Sentinels, but yet they are at the cost of premium figures? You know what I mean? So even if you made one that, unlike the HasLabs one, which is a one-time crowdfunded thing that's very expensive, even if you ended up having, say, one that was less bells and whistles than that, but even like, say, $200, would you prefer something like that, trying to army build on that, versus, something that was, I think actually when that first came out, it was $200. I think the after price now is like $400 because on the market. So yeah, $200. If you had to have at that, obviously that's a lot of detail, but you get the point I'm trying to say, is that if you had to choose between something that was cost a lot more and have more bells and whistles, or you can army build, when it comes to Sentinels specifically, what would you prefer, or something in between? All right, you guys, as always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.